What I am about to tell you is my experience. It was real if you choose to believe. It's up to you. I was 11 when I first saw the Shadow Man. I was out in the backyard, playing with my baby sister Lyra. She was 2 at the time, and absolutely loved ladybugs. She would run around the yard grabbing at everything that resembled the little insects. All I had to do was make sure she didn't fall into the pool or the decorative koi ponds and drown. I was reading my favorite Nancy Drew book when I heard it, a soft whispering voice in my ear. "She's so sweet, isn't she?" I turned around and saw a tall man in a fedora. I couldn't see his face, or any exposed skin for that matter, but I could see his clothes as clearly as I could see my hand in front of me. He was wearing black gloves and black shoes. His undershirt, dress pants, and tie were all dark gray. Just looking at him gave me the horrible feeling that I had just made eye contact with something without eyes. I let out a yelp. Who are you?" I asked. "Wrong question," was all he said back. Then he disappeared. Not in a poof of smoke, not like he was abducted by aliens. He vanished like he was never real. I blinked a few times, wondering dazedly if I had fallen asleep. Then I heard a tiny splash from behind me, followed by Lyra yelling. I ran over to the koi pond my sister was stuck in and hauled her out. It wasn't very big, maybe a foot deep, but for Lyra, that was like being dumped into a 7-foot pool without knowing how to swim. The koi thrashed around confusedly for a minute or two before calming down and swimming on with their lives again. I stared at the small pond for a second. I could have sworn I had just seen the reflection of someone wearing a fedora standing behind me. It must have just been the ripples. The next time I saw the Shadow Man, I was 14. I was at Lyra's 5th birthday party, watching the kids from her kindergarten class run around with pool noodles. Lyra was especially happy. Her 2 best friends, Mackenzie and June, were now sword fighting with her using their noodles. Lyra's ruby hair caught the light as she fainted and blocked. Her smile could light up a city. Then I felt fingers run through my hair. It was a soft touch. One might even call it kind, but it left me with a feeling of dread. I whipped around and saw the same tall man from 3 years ago. "Darling, isn't she?" His voice was like feathers lined with thorns, soft and caring, but twisted in some odd way. "I wish she were my sister too. You're very lucky, you know. This is a private party. If you're not a parent, please leave," I said to him. The man sighed. "Enjoy it while it lasts," he whispered as he disappeared once again. "Time for cake," yelled Lyra's voice. I turned and watched the cheering kids wander into the house. "Enjoy it while it lasts." What's that supposed to mean? I didn't see the Shadow Man again for about 4 years, but sure enough, he showed up again. Lyra had invited Mackenzie and June for a sleepover. I was 18 at this point and was attempting to decide on a college to go to. Emphasis on attempting to. Every time I tried to read the pamphlet, I was interrupted by a scream of joy from upstairs. Eventually, I got so sick of the noise that I decided to actually do something about it. I marched up the stairs to Lyra's room, jerked open the bedroom door and thundered, "Could you please keep it down?" Lyra, June, and Mackenzie all looked up from the words on the karaoke machine with matching expressions of surprise, then started laughing. "Okay, Mia, sorry," giggled Lyra, her cheeks flushing slightly. I sighed. "Thank you," I said before heading back downstairs. I was halfway down the stairwell when I heard his quiet voice in my ear. "Aren't you glad that she's so happy?" I whipped around and attempted to sock the man in the face. He took a step back, easily dodging the punch. "Now really, that's no way to treat a guest," he said. "Why are you here?" I said, instead of answering. I could feel a smile radiating off him. "Finally asking all the right questions, are we?" he said condescendingly. "Why are you here?" I said again, adding a little punch to each word. Ever since the Shadow Man's last visit and cryptic remark, I had been researching everything about ghosts and demons that I possibly could. I had posted about my experiences on Reddit. I spammed the message boards with questions. I had done everything in my power to figure out what this shadowy man's deal was. Everyone said to ask him why he was here. "I'm here," he said briskly, "because I care about your sister, and for things to work out in the end, I need to make you care about her as much as I do." Then he vanished again. Well, that got me nowhere. That got me. It was my wedding day when I saw him again. I was 25, and it was finally my big day. When I was in college, I had met the perfect guy. Handsome, loving, kind, great personality, check, 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 and check. I had Lyra as my flower girl. She looked so pretty and orange, and she was perfect for the job in every way. Lyra was 16 now, and was taller than I ever was. Her hair was long and wavy and a bright glittering red. Her face was a perfect heart shape, and her eyes were big and hazel. And to top it all off, she had the kindest personality of anyone I've ever met, not to mention her straight A's. She was wonderful. As she walked down the aisle and tossed flowers and petals left and right, I felt a tap on my shoulder. The Shadow Man. I turned to face him and saw that he was holding a bouquet of orange tulips. "I want you to give these to Lyra. After the ceremony, you can find her in one of the empty hotel rooms." Confused, I took the flowers and nodded. The Shadow Man vanished once again. Sure enough, after the ceremony, I found Lyra in one of the hotel's rooms with her boyfriend Aaron. They weren't doing anything, but it still made me nervous. When I gave Lyra the flowers, she hugged me. "Thank you, Mia. You're the best sister ever," she whispered. As I hugged her back, I saw the Shadow Man standing behind Aaron. The Shadow Man looked at me intensely. Then, even though I couldn't see his mouth, I know he smiled. "Why don't we go and get some cake?" I said to Lyra. 2 weeks later, my new husband and I were staying with my parents while we were looking for a house. Lyra and I were sharing a bedroom, since my parents had turned my room into a knitting nook after I left for college. I was sitting at Lyra's desk, looking for job listings in the area. Lyra was in her bed, looking at cat videos on YouTube. I had just circled a job option that looked promising when I heard Lyra gasp. I turned around to look at her. Her face was pale and shocked. "What is it?" I inquired. Lyra motioned for me to come over toward her. She sat up in bed, and I sat next to her. On her computer screen was a picture of a ruined building. The article was entitled, "Gas Explosion at Teen Party. No Survivors." "Aaron was at that party," Lyra whispered. "Oh, Lyra." I wrapped one arm around her consolingly. "I was going to go to that party. Aaron invited me after the wedding. I didn't get a chance to say yes because," she turned and looked at me, "because you walked in. You saved my life." She hugged me tightly. Behind her, sitting on the bed, the shadow man watched us, then vanished.